Hi, welcome. On this next series of videos, I'm going to be responding by way of this recent podcast put on by Bill Church, where he's talking to Larry Krohn, a couple other trainers here. And again, this is on the heels of this controversy involving the Association of Canine Professionals, which is a Balanced Dog Trainer Association, again triggered by this issue about punishment, which you're going to hear on this podcast. The confusion, again, talk about all the confusion in the dog training world. In fact, I've gone through part of my flipping the script series, go through all the controversies, talking about why they're happening in the first place. And here's another controversy. And again, the video I just put out where you have a trainer, Dylan Jones, going after the president of this Balanced Dog Training Association over how he used the remote collar. Posted a video. I discussed that. And again, even in terms of the association having a force-free speakers coming to the conference, and one of them, kind of pushed to the side over incident involving a dog dying in a vehicle. But it just on and on it goes. And again, you're seeing so much confusion, so much back and forth. And so here, this podcast, which again, I'm going to go through because a lot of these topics are brought up. You hear a lot of trash talk in here, even going after Sean O'Shea, Balanced Dog Trainers going after each other. It just never ends. But again, I talk about it's symptomatic of all the confusions happening over this, superficial process, this idea that trains a learning-based exercise. And again, talk about why it is so common for dog owners to experience a counterfeit picture change within the framework of response itself. Okay, by way of this idea, going to talk about even the issue about free will and choice. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. I put a video talking about that within the parameters of a relationship problem, what that actually means, but how that also opens the door up to this picture problem in terms of within the framework of response itself. So again, I put out very specific information. I know it can be very challenging, but again, if you line it all up and you look at the state of the dog training world, it'll all make sense. Okay, if you apply some critical thinking, but again, talking through it. So again, I'll play some of this video podcast. It's like over 2 hours long. I already skipped it ahead here, about 20 minutes in. There's a lot of kind of banter with these trainers. So let's play some of this, and I'm going to be responding to it.
So this was all him. And when we did our one together, you would think three would make it tough, but as soon as he said, "What about Jay?" About bringing this guy on, I have no idea how he came up with Jay, but I was like, absolutely. And I didn't meet Jay or Joel until we all met at the conference 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, right? But I had interactions with Jay online because I loved what he was saying, what him and Chad were saying on their podcasts. When I started listening to them, like I had commented a few times, like, "Oh man, these guys are speaking my language. Like this is beautiful." But with all the stuff going on now, the shit show between the IACP and all the videos and people being attacked, and you see the debate with the punishments, it doesn't stop. And that is something that
It's never stopped. But here again, I put up some videos on Krohn. I mean, here you have Krohn, and again, just the confusion, contradictions. Call himself a purely positive, balanced dog trainer. It's like right away, it's like, what the heck is that? Okay. But again, when you look at certain narratives out there, such as rewarding bad behavior to create good behavior. I talk about the confusion over, in terms of what defines training. I talk about in terms of, changing focus, a dog's focus using, say, treats or a motivator versus intercepting an express state, but also in terms of reconciling those core ingredients at the social level. How's that actually happen? Well, it's specific, but these trainers, again, understand that they're aligned with this, very problematic idea in terms of what defines training. So it sets up all this confusion. It also brings in, you wonder why it is that within the conference itself, why would they bring in, force-free, trainers to speak at a balanced dog trainer conference? I mean, there's so many red flags. As you say, well, I know why. Because both these groups, even though they pretend to be different, they're the same in terms of the core tenet itself. in terms of how they're approaching a relationship problem, how they're approaching training, which is inherently flawed at its core, in terms of how it sets in motion a counterfeit picture within the framework of response. So you go to my Facebook page, top and center, called the question of the century. What's the criteria these trainers are using to establish that perception dogs are changing the right way within the framework of response? What is it? How are they doing that? Well, it's assumption based. And the very criteria I talk about influence and control is not reconciled through their approach in terms of how they're setting that picture change in motion to begin with.
That we dive deep into our seminars, our solo seminars, the seminars with the three of us.
Diving deep. There ain't no deep diving into a superficial process. Just understand that.
Right? It doesn't matter. But think about this, Bill. I think I said this in a video. 8 years ago, when we were all speaking in Colorado Springs, I think it was 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, I went in to watch Jay's presentation on retractable leashes, which is mind-boggling to me that someone has the balls to do a presentation on retractable leashes. And it was
like mind-boggling. I mean, retractable, and this is where again I put a video with Larry Krohn, using I called it like it's like he has the record for the longest retractable leash I've ever seen on video, even more so than Zach George. But you talk about tools, okay? Understand, you talk about retractable leashes, those things that you're not, if you understand, in terms of what defines training, in terms of that conversation, what brings together those core ingredients, you wouldn't be using retractable leashes. Just understand that. That they're not in the relationship changing script. But you see these balanced dog trainers, because they're playing. Understand, balanced dog trainers, they're playing both sides of the fence here. It's like that's why they'll use certain devices and they come into agreement. They're in agreement and they market certain concepts that the same as force-free trainers. Why they give force-free trainers a hall pass all the time? They'll say, "Oh well, they're good up to a certain point, or what? They're all over the place for a reason because they're in a trap. Understand? They're in a catch-22 situation. They're compromised. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to. This is the whole thing, the controversy over right now over punishment." Because the force-free side saying, hold on here a second. You don't need to use a negative, within the process if it's all about choices this way. I talk about that. See, they're in a trap. So, it's, and again, the Jamie Penrith video I have up on my channel, go watch it. When Jamie Penrith goes on Good Morning Britain, trying to debate with a force-free trainer over the role of remote collars. You see how that escalates where he's pinned down. He's trying to justify it. And even the hosts are saying, well, we're not convinced. Like, because understand that by way of what this ideology represents, force-free trainers look a lot less confused than balanced trainers. Even though it's totally wrong, okay, and it's inherently flawed to its core, and it sets up a counterfeit picture, it doesn't matter. Balanced dog trainers, see, they can't call out force-free trainers. You can't call out that which you're in agreement with, period.
Was damn good, like everything he does, right? But there was a conversation going on between all the professional dog trainers in the crowd. Jay's on stage, I'm sitting up front, and they're talking about punishment, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not punishment. Like, this is going back a ways now. Like, am I crazy? That's not punishment. And then Jay literally spoke out and he said, that's not punishment. And I literally said out loud, motherfucker, that's it. Thank you. And
do you remember what it was by chance? Because
I don't remember the exact subject, but just like people struggle and get it misconstrued today, they were so far off. And now I see a guy.
And now, see, that's the thing. It's like, here's you got Bill Church saying, well, do you remember? Well, no, I don't. I can't remember what it was. See, understand so much to balanced dog training. It's so all over the place. This is why the controversy is happening right now. I mean, it's like they cannot. This is why, again, you see, and you look at the Jeff Gellman bonker situation, which is a great, great illustration of the confusion. You see not just force-free trainers, but you saw, like right here, you saw balanced dog trainers piling onto that situation, trying to have Gellman canceled. Abuse. Was it abuse? No. It was confusion. And see, that's the whole thing, is even to define what defines punishment, what defines, in terms of abuse, how you reconcile those core ingredients. It doesn't come through balanced dog training. Just understand that. They're not dialed into the relationship the right way at all. I mean, it's just like it's appearance based.
That's thinking along the same ways I am, right? But since then, we've gone even deeper into the punishment stuff. And really, it's why a lot of people come to our
Deeper.
seminars because they want to learn where they're going wrong. Because listen, we don't have trouble for the most part stopping.
The same thing. So understand, we talk about corrections, balanced dog trainers, they're in a reactive posture. The video I put out, go watch the video I put out on Krohn's seminar he did with this, aggressive dog coming out. This, and the how the remote collar was used in that. It's how the videos, trying to dial into the confusion of balanced dog training. It doesn't align. They're in a reactive posture. The role of influence does not align properly at all. And so again, this is why all the confusion, right? Because they're working off of, they're very superficially focused. They're not dialed into because the core ingredients at the beginning are what reveal. Understand that's what is going to give you the right picture, the right information as the current state of relationship. But you have to be dialed in. Those have to be active through a specific intentional interaction based approach. That's what reveals. I go back to the parent example all the time, through specific interactions with a parent, that interplay, parental influence as active, right? That's what reveals the attitude of the child. It's no different.
Difficult behaviors in dogs. And we're both very light handed trainers. You understand? And even though you show people and
And that's what he'll do too. These trainers like Krohn, they'll pander, right? It's language, how they use language, right? They're trying to, they're compromised anyway, but they come off sounding like Zach George. They're not talking about they use certain language, certain words to draw people in. Oh, well, but it's just confusion. So they pander, they're playing off of, it's like they have the home field advantage anyway. They're playing off certain relationship dynamics that way, people's emotions and stuff. They use certain language to do that.
show them in every way possible and you break it down and explain things for 3 days straight. Joe will tell you, come Sunday, people are still just asking questions because the hardest thing in dog training is to change the human habit. Okay.
Amen.
And people really struggle with that and they always want to go back to what comes natural. So when Jay comes in and explains things the way he does, and Joel, what I love about Joel, he'll explain from both our perspectives. This is what Jay's why he's doing this. This is why Larry's doing this. But when Jay comes in and gives his interpretation of all this stuff, he's doing it one way. I'm just doing the same thing in a different way because some people, it takes that hearing of both ways before they go, oh shit. We had one woman, wonderful trainer. It was 4 years, her fourth seminar in a row, where Jay was working with a very difficult dog, a Rottweiler, at the end of the seminar. And someone asked a question about what was going on with the punishment. And I went to explain why Jay was doing what he was doing. And she threw her hand up and said, oh, wait, I think I just got it. And she explained it and broke it down and she got it right. It took 4 years for her to understand because it was so simple. She was thinking too much into it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So,
Can you move your screen over just a little bit? I can see half of your face, Larry.
oh, sorry. Yeah.
There you go. Jay, I think we lost connection with Jay,
Gotcha.
which is a bummer.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Bill. You see the shit show going on online now. People just want the answer. There is no answer. Like you have to learn from the right people, right? I teach it. Jay teaches it.
Like I said, you go look at, again, I put out a ton of content here. You go look at the Larry Krohn videos I put out, and that's the thing. It's like a traveling show here with these trainers. That's what they do. It's just like it's the same thing, marketing the same thing. It's like part of the system, right? Playing both sides of the fence.
We've all learned from Ivan. Dylan Jones teaches it, but Dylan Jones is a bad name to say in dog training for a lot of people right now, right? It's not for me. I will stand behind his training 100%. I've been.
Well, of course he would. I mean, talk about that. So, and a lot of this podcast is trying to market the Ivan's approach and stuff like that. Again, I talk about all of it. It's not about, and that's the thing, is like a lot of these trainers have a great series on in my member area. I encourage you to check it out, of my website. It's the back and forth, the conversation back and forth between Ivan and Larry over the role of remote callers. But each, Ivan's trying to kind of carve out, right, to say, well, I'm separate and apart. And he's not, in terms of, being different that way. He's not a balanced trend. No, because it comes down, understand, it comes down to the core ingredients. Are they reconciled? See, that's what the question is. And so the first kind of clue that they're not is, training without conflict. Okay, I understand there's conflict already. You're experiencing a relationship problem with your dog, but there's going to be, to it becoming what it needs to be, a power play at the social level. There's going to be conflict, but it's not the type of conflict that's meant to, cause a war with your dog. Okay, because it's about dog understanding intent, clarity. It's where your dog comes into agreement, right, the right way. But it isn't what these trainers are, marketing, because as I understand, it opens this door up to perception of dogs not changing, at a certain level. And so, you end up with a bad result or bad things happen. And I go through all of it. So, but you see these trainers trying to play this shell game, as though they're offering something different. You hear Krohn talking here in this podcast about, oh, I can't talk about certain things, secret information. Well, what's secret? There's nothing secret. Okay, that's the whole thing. See, that's what these trainers try to do. They try to find a little, kind of carve out a little niche for themselves, right? To market themselves. Say that no, I talk about all of it. Say here it is. You can put everything I say to the test. There's nothing hidden. And it comes down to whether or not those core ingredients are reconciled. There's only one way that they are. Okay, it's through a interaction-based method. Okay, that aligns properly.
Very vocal and honest. Yes, there's things that he says that I don't like. I had to kind of disassociate from that. But I've lost friends in this industry recently because I refuse to back the bullshit that they throw at him as like he's an abusive trainer or something. No, people are mad because he's a much better trainer than them and getting results and showing it with the same
The same thing, because this whole thing always defaults back to, well, what represents better? I say that. What's success? You see, like the anti-dog train went through, always defaulting back to their, oh, this is my, testimonials, all this. That means nothing. It really doesn't, based on appearances and based on, again, exploiting people's emotions. There's lots of dog owners that just will accept a lack of success, as long as you're telling them what they want to hear, and they're working off of trusting what you're saying, appearances. But because this is like so popular, this bad picture is out there, and the blame shifting on the dogs has become normalized at such a level, these trainers get away with this, right? There's no accountability at all. It's like the shifting sands of this ideology.
concepts that we're trying to stress to people that people don't want to believe that there's something different. So when people out there say there's nothing new in dog training, no, there is for you because you don't know this stuff. I know it because we see 1,000 people a year, right, Joel? And we see it over and over and over again.
Well, plus I mean, 1,000, including our solos. I've got six. I do 6 to 8 solos a year. Larry's got 6 to 8 solos a year on top of our the joint stuff. But like just something Larry said was just really, really super important in medicine. Larry and we talked actually today, and I think what people need to do is they need to be open-minded, and a lot of people they refuse to be open-minded. They'll look at something and they'll look at one perspective, and that's what they. And what made me a good trainer a long.
So here's talking about open, but here's the thing. I mean, the good news is that okay, when you're aligned properly, okay, when those core ingredients are part of your foundation, okay, you don't have to guess. Okay, you don't have to be in doubt. You don't have to guess. You're gonna know. I mean, that's the good news. Okay, you can tell. You know exactly, what the current state of the relationship is, and change will be happening. So it's all this system of training is a complete system. Okay, to answer the questions, but you go through, and again, I'm profiling these controversies because here you have another big controversy all erupting all over social media, and to the confusion of balanced dog training, and you'll see that they're all over the map. Because it's just based on appearances. It lacks depth, does not connect dots properly, doesn't even reconcile what training represents based on a relationship problem. Okay, this whole thing about learning and choice, we talk about free will. These are the things that you have to apply critical thinking, but these are the things these trainers, the questions these trainers never asked. They just jumped into this. And it's kind of like, all on board. It's like the Titanic going down. Okay. I mean, it's, the iceberg has been hit already. Because sooner or later, that's how it works. I mean, a lie can, can carry on for quite a while, but sooner or later, this is why you're seeing it's symptomatic. That's why you're seeing all the divisiveness, all the infighting, all the, the back and forth. That's not an accident. The force freeze, these trainers are fighting with each other and stuff. You see it all the time. You'll see more of it on this podcast as I move forward. Okay. The trash talking only increases. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 2.